Hi there, friends. I'll come in here with a quick note to let you know that the first global Product Owner Summit organized by the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast is coming soon. To know more, check out the bit.ly/Product Owner 2023. That's bit.ly/Product Owner 2023. That's all one word, all lowercase. And stick around to the end of the episode to know more. But for now, on to the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to one more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. And this week we have with us, joining us from Spain, Caterina Palmiotto. Hey, Caterina, welcome to the show.
Hi, Vasco. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So Caterina started as a software developer, but soon realized that she was passionate about team dynamics and communication and embraced agility from the moment she saw it. And I'm sure many of our listeners will relate to this start of career. Caterina believes that a team can be more than the sum of its parts, and that growing the right culture is essential. When people are surrounded by good examples, they will be motivated to do their best. So the first step, as she says, is being a good example of the culture we want to nurture. And I couldn't agree more. So Caterina, that was a short intro. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and how did you end up becoming a Scrum Master?
Yes, sure. So, like you said, I started my first job as a software developer. And actually, in my first job, I entered in a Scrum team. So the first way of working I met was already Agile. And I discovered, more traditional way of working only later. And so it was a nice way
So
to
it was a shock then.
Yes, exactly. It was, oh, you were doing this before. Interesting. And so in that first team I joined, I met my first Scrum Master, of course. And I have to say he was really passionate about it. And I started, making questions, try to understand how Scrum works. And he was teaching me, he became kind of my mentor. And I have to say he was happy because it seems that nobody else in the team really cared about Scrum, even if we were doing a nice version of Scrum. Of course, not perfect, it's never perfect, but it was nice. And so after that, I guess I started noticing also that our failures as a team were more connected to the dynamics of the team, the lack of communication. And so only in rare occasion, the failure was connected to the real work, let's say, to the technical work. And so that's what made me start trying to understand more these dynamics. And I was finding interesting points in the agile way of seeing things. And that's why the next job was a Scrum Master position. And so I started doing that after some study.
Absolutely. And the kind of your discovery that a lot of the problems that you were facing as a team were more related to team dynamics and relationships and collaboration. It's quite common for us Scrum Masters. I think many of us have this kind of inbuilt intuition to find where the communication and collaboration problems happen. And of course, eventually we'd experience also how to solve them. And that experience is what we want to explore next, Caterina. And we want you to tell us a story of one of those difficult moments. Perhaps it was before you were a Scrum Master or even after you were a Scrum Master, but a moment where you really tried to help the team or the stakeholders, but what you knew at the time just wasn't enough, right? And that's the learning we want to share, that jump from not knowing to finally figuring it out. So tell us that story first. We'll dive into the details later, but tell us that story first, Caterina.
Okay. Yes. So well, it's maybe it's a weird story, but I'll tell you because it's something that it was important for me to learn, because at the beginning I was almost sure that it was kind of a successful experience because I was working as a Scrum Master in this big company. It wasn't an IT company, but they had an IT department. And so I was working in the IT department as a Scrum Master. And One of my colleagues and I were working on this project. He was the project manager and I was the Scrum Master. So of course, again, not perfect Scrum. There was a real project manager. And we were, let's say, taking care of the project and of 2-3 teams according to the period of time. They were developing a software for the company. So they were developing an in-house software. And let's say that nobody in the company knew anything about Agile or about Scrum. And so we were, let's say, the only two taking care of this. We wanted to try for real. And at the beginning, it was really complicated, of course, because, there were the usual battles between IT and business department. Nobody really wanted to help each other. There was always, this way of blaming each other, and it was really complicated. But what it seems a success at the moment was that after 1.5 years, we were able to create this kind of a bubble. It was a very nice bubble where we were working together with the teams and the product owners. They were talking to each other. They were developing the software, doing all the release in time. So it seems that everything was working fine. And we were kind of protecting the teams from all the bad things that were happening in the rest of the company. And so I thought, we did it and it was really cool. But then when I left the company, for other reason, I decided to move on and so I left that place. I discovered later that also the project manager got promoted, and so he had to leave the teams. And so the teams were composed, of course, on the majority from external consultant, and so new people arrived to replace, the decision owner, let's say, for the company. And I realized that everything fell apart because even if I'm sure the team learned and they made themselves their way of working, so they really believed in what we were doing, but since the decision owner from the company were different people who didn't know anything about Agile, they couldn't, just keep doing what they've learned to do, and they couldn't keep improving. And so I realized this important lesson that, of course, you cannot think that you are an isolated system. You need to face the fact that you are part of the company. And as a Scrum Master, in that case, I failed to spread the idea of what we were doing, to spread the Agile principle in the company, to involve more people. And that's why at the end, I guess that everything fell apart. So we didn't care about sharing what we have learned. Maybe we tried, but definitely not enough. It wasn't our priority, of course.
This is, of course, a story that many of our listeners will relate to. A lot of the value of the Scrum Master is, of course, to help the team get to that point where they can be agile, and even also the organization. But that is also a very difficult job. If we take it as, as you said, I'm the Scrum Master. There's decision makers elsewhere that don't necessarily understand why this matters, and they are perfectly okay with big design up front and large plans that will never be completed. But let's imagine that you were that Scrum Master again, and you were going back to that point in time when you were with that team. What else would you have done? You built the bubble, as you said, right? The Agile bubble for those teams. But what else do you think you could have done at that time to help Agile stay even after you left?
Yeah, I think I would have tried more, to invite even more people to our sprint review, to our demo, and to come to see what was happening there, even during the sprints, how we were doing our work, how the teams were talking with the product owners, and how much important was their relationship, and how much important was, that in front of any problem, blaming each other wasn't the solution. So I think I would have tried to organize more open session to have people coming there to see, and also maybe I would have proposed a session where my colleague and I could go there and speak to, create curiosity in the rest of the other departments, and to talk more about what we felt at the time as a success. And so in that case, maybe other would have been curious to try and to understand why it was working so well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that curiosity was what got you started, right? Like when in that first team, when you started talking to the Scrum Master and understanding how Agile works. And I think that curiosity for us as Scrum Masters is also a resource. It's something that if we are able to create, then our job will also be a lot easier. And when we focus on that, when we focus on sharing, for example, success stories is one way to do that. How did you do that, right? Like, why is it different for you, right? And I was just thinking, as you were describing it, that it's not necessarily easy to do that in a larger company, but sometimes just looking at, just around the bubble, for example, the rest of the IT department, and maybe starting there, because if the whole IT department would have moved towards Agile, then they could have taken the job of making the rest of the company curious, right?
Yes, exactly. Indeed. Yes, just a larger step every time.
Yeah, just enough for the next step. Exactly.
Yes.
And I think that's also a very humane way to look at our work, right? Because we are not Superman or Superwomen. Like, we can't do all of it, but we can take that next step. And I think that idea that you shared of making other curious, I think it can be a very powerful idea if we focus on, okay, so what's the next layer around us, right? And make that layer curious.
Yes, exactly. And I like what you said, it's at the end, it's about finding allies, and creating the curiosity can allow you to find allies that can keep doing the job for you, and they don't need you anymore. And that's the idea at the end.
Absolutely. Great story. Thank you for sharing that with us, Caterina.
Thank you for your time and for listening.
Hi there, Agile friends. Thank you for sticking around. This year's first global summit dedicated to the product owner role in Scrum will have some amazing keynotes and 2 tracks filled with first-hand stories and experiences for product owners to learn more about that critical Scrum role. We'll have Roman Pichler, author and product expert, who'll be answering your questions and sharing the most important aspects of the product owner role. We'll also have Colleen Johnson talking about why roadmaps are probably making your life much harder than it needs to be, and what to do instead. This talk was quite a success in Agile Online Summit 2022, and Colleen has learned some new tricks, tools, techniques that she will share with us when it comes to roadmaps for the product owner role. And we will also have Henrik Nyberg, author of Scrum and Kanban from the Trenches, as well as one of the creators of the Spotify model. So come in and listen to his stories. And we'll also have, of course, 2 tracks with many more sessions and even some live sessions. The 2 tracks will cover practices every product owner should know, where we'll be hosting conversations on topics that product owners need to be familiar with, like backlog refinement, planning, and much more. The second track will be on metrics, measuring product and personal success as a product owner. As product owners, it's crucial to have a clear understanding of what are the metrics that drive success for us, and of course also for the products and businesses that we work with. And we need to continuously measure and optimize those metrics. So in this track, we'll be sharing what's working and what's not in the area of measuring success for product owners. We will also have the opportunity to network with our peers. It's a network event, of course, so get your tickets and join our Slack. Go to bit.ly/product owner 2023. That's all one word, all lowercase. As always, we will have free tickets and VIP tickets, which will give you long-term access to the content of this summit. So check them out at bit.ly/product owner 2023. All lowercase, all one word. I'll see you on the summit floor. Monday is about what we learn from our obstacles and our failures. But tomorrow is Team Tuesday here on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. We explore teams and their journeys, the habits they develop that threaten their performance, how each of our guests help their teams evolve, and the one key lesson they learned from that experience.